Hello and welcome to another TERN skills session. Today's session is called the Cybersecurity Basics for Business, and we're here to talk everything to do with keeping ourselves safe on the internet. And today we will be doing two things. We'll be understanding the threats, things that you should be careful of on the internet, online, that could potentially affect your business in a negative way. And we'll also be discussing things that can help you to protect against those threats. Presenting today is me, Saman, and you can call me Sam. I'm the Digital Services Officer here at TERN. I'm a technology expert and very active in the field of AI and everything technology. I've had a lot of experience dealing with cybersecurity, both in the context of running my own businesses, mostly online, as well as creating digital products, where cybersecurity is a very, very important topic. There are 5 parts to today's session, and the first one is understanding the threats. I want you all to leave today with knowing some examples of how potentially bad actors and hackers and cyber criminals can potentially target you. Knowing these is very important because once you can spot the signs, then you will know how to deal with it. You know how to protect yourself and ensure that you don't fall victim to any scams or any schemes. And so we're going to talk about that. There are a lot of businesses, and especially small businesses, that actually get targeted. A lot of times when it comes to cybersecurity, people think that it's only the big companies that get targeted because they have billions and billions of money. But actually, small businesses get targeted a lot as well. Last year in the UK, about more than 600,000 small businesses reported that they had an attack or a breach. And in a lot of cases, the criminals actually prefer targeting small businesses because they expect them to have lower or fewer protections and security levels. And so we are in the eyes of these people. And so we should know how to protect ourselves. And to give you some reassurance, there is some good news. And it is very good. Most of these attacks that target small businesses, they're not sophisticated hacking from a dark basement somewhere, somebody on a computer specifically targeting you. But rather, these rely on very simple tricks and tactics that if you know what they are, you'll be way less likely to fall victim to them. And that's one of the things that we're going to be doing today, is to teach you the habits, the few habits that if you practice can help you stop a majority of these kind of risks and threats in their tracks. And for these, you don't need to be technical. Now, what are these threats actually like? What are they after? In most cases, they are looking to get your money. They're looking to get access to your accounts because sometimes those accounts themselves can also lead to money. They're looking to potentially steal your accounts and give it to someone else in exchange for money who can impersonate you or your business. And sometimes they're after customer information so that they can pretend to be you and contact your customers. And so the key motivator underneath all of these is that they are after ways of monetizing the things that they can get access to by targeting your business. And so if you sell online or you advertise on social media, your accounts are technically, they're your shop front. They're like your physical store. And so making sure that they are protected is protecting yourself and your income. And some of the tricks that these people tend to use, you can categorize them into 5 steps. You have the phishing messages, you have the fake invoices, you have account takeover, marketplace scams, and the too good to be true, which is generally my fail-safe. I'll quickly run through these and give you an idea of what they are. Phishing messages, it's phishing with a PH. It actually refers to when somebody sends you a message pretending to be someone else. Sometimes you might get an email from somebody you know and trust, but it's not actually them who's sending it. and they try to get you to do something that opens your defenses, opens you vulnerable to them taking advantage of your business. And these kind of phishing scams are actually the most common ones that you will come across on the internet. I frequently, about once a week, potentially get emails from Google, but it's not really Google the company. It's somebody impersonating Google sending me those emails. Um, I'll show you an example of these later on, but you also get like fake invoices. You have people sending you an invoice and saying, "Oh, like you owe us this amount of money. You owe us £1,000." Um, and then you get stressed and you worry I've not used these person's services, but they've invoiced me for £1,000. What is this about? And you engaging with it is what they want. They want you to talk to them, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, maybe we got the wrong person. Can you tell us like your name and your address?" And that way they'll be able to get access to your personal information, which is your name and where you live or where your business is based at. And then they can use that in connection with other information they have about you to impersonate your business next time, to steal money from someone else. The third one is account takeovers. These are quite rare, especially in this day and age with two-factor authentication being a massive thing. It's very rare for somebody to get access to somebody else's account in its entirety and control it. But it does happen. This is when you have the same password and you've used it on a lot of different websites, and somebody finds out what that password is, and they sign into your accounts and they change the password to something that you don't know. So you get locked out of your own profiles, your own accounts. And this kind of takeover then lets them do, act, and behave um, impersonating you, because the accounts are yours. They have your name, they have your details, but the person behind the driving wheel is not you. And so this is the main one that we want to stay away from. And then you have marketplace scams where people buy stuff and then charge back on your card. You have kind of like a return policy abuses. These kind of things tend to happen quite a bit if you're selling on online marketplaces. For example, if you're on eBay, and these are not exactly the kind of cybersecurity that you can specifically protect against. But one way to actually try and make sure that they don't happen as often is to record everything and document everything. So, for example, if you have a station where you prepare packages to be sent out to customers, it would be good for you to record videos of yourself packaging all of those boxes and putting the postage details on them, so that if they come back and say, "Hey, I got this package but it was empty, give me back my £50," and they're also going to keep what you sent them, then you have evidence that, eBay, I actually did package this and I sent it to them. Here's a video. And then eBay will take your side because you have evidence that you were not responsible for the loss of the package. So you can protect yourself that way. The last one is the too good to be true. And this is something I want you to remember as a general rule. If something sounds too good to be true, it most likely isn't. So if somebody reaches out and say, "Hey, I see that you're a impact organization and I represent a family office that gives out £500,000 grants to organizations like yours. We'd be happy to start a conversation. Just like send us some more information." And they start a conversation that way. Make sure you do very deep research into them. Um, because if they especially ask for things that you might feel uncomfortable, or you start questioning why are they asking for these things, like for example, sometimes they might be asking for you to pay a fee to be considered for an application or a job offer, um, or kind of like a candidacy that they can put you forward for. And these are usually scams and things to be aware of, to not fall prey to. So always think about everything. Is it too good to be true? look at it through that lens. And if it sounds too good to be true, then be extra careful, be vigilant. And regardless of what category it falls for, there are four general ways of knowing how to spot these things. The number one is that they always try and create a sense of urgency. They will tell you, oh, like your account has been blocked on eBay. You need to answer us right now or as soon as possible. Otherwise, your profile will be deleted. Don't fall for it. Don't trust it. eBay never deletes your account permanently for no reason without talking to you for an extended period of time. And so don't let these bad actors make you feel like if I don't do what they want me to right now, I'm going to lose something. You're not. Even if it's a letter of a fine or something from HMRC, if it is legitimate, you have time to talk to them, call them on the HMRC's helpline, negotiate with them. You can appoint a representative. Nothing is super urgent. So don't let them push you with fear of urgency. The second one, if it's kind of unexpected, if it's something that you were not expecting to see or hear about, then be extra careful with it. You don't know the sender, you want to look into them, you want to do research. And always ask for secrets or verify independently. So if they say they're representative of a company that you have an account with, um, you could either ask them to read back to you information that only that company would know, or better yet, you could hang up, call the company directly on a number or an email address that you know and trust, and ask them, hey, this person reached out from you. I just want to make sure that they are who they say they are. And this way you'd be able to protect yourself against those kinds of attacks. And last but not least, sometimes they have very odd details. So, for example, whenever I receive an email address that I'm planning on responding to or taking action on, I always double check the email address. I double check the spelling, I'll double check to make sure it is all looking as normal as possible. Sometimes they have like numbers in the domain name, in the address name. But it's always a good thing to check. So for example, if they say that the email is from, say, Google or Facebook, I double check to make sure that I see facebook.com. Now, this is not 100% foolproof, but it's a very, very good first step. Now, this message that you see on the screen from gov.uk.payments, put in the chat whether you think that's a real message or do you think that's a scam. It's a test for you. I'll give you a minute to type in the chat. Do you think that's a real message from gov.uk? All right, that's good. Okay, so no one's fallen for it. That's good. So this is actually a fake message. It tries to force you into reacting within 24 hours. It's not something you were expecting. You weren't planning on, parting ways with money in order to receive a rebate. And it asks for your bank details, which they should already have. Because if it's a rebate, it means they've already been charging you for something and now they're looking to give some of it back. And so how were they charging you and why can't they send it to the same account? So an example of something to look out for. And when you're in doubt, you always do these three steps. You stop, you think, and you check. So you stop before you take any action. Do not pay anything they ask you to. Do not transfer any money or send any information like address, name, anything. And think about, was I actually expecting to see this? Is this something that I was looking forward to, or was it something that makes sense? Would my bank or supplier really ask something from me in this way? And then check, always confirm. So reach out through channels that you already have open and you trust. If you have an email chain with a supplier, contact them through that. It's something that they know you from as well. So those channels can be trusted more than others. And yeah, don't rush into action without doing these three things first. Now we're going to move on to part two. Part two is kind of the cornerstone of all security on the internet. The main way that us humans tend to interact with the internet is usually through accounts. So you have a account for everything. You have an account for Facebook, you have an account for Amazon, you have an account for eBay, you have an account for Zoom, which enabled you to join this call, which is for TERN community members only. And it's through these accounts that we recognize each other online. It's how us at TERN are able to say, well, these few people who've joined this Zoom call are actually parts of the TERN community members. And the way that we use those accounts and the way that we keep them safe and make sure that only us can access it is through passwords, which are kind of like the keys to your house, the keys to a door to an account. And like a house key, you want to make sure it's always with you. Nobody else has a copy of it, and that it always stays safe and protected. Now, when it comes to the internet, obviously, we don't just have one single key for our front door of the house that we live in. We actually tend to have many different keys. And, if you think about your own accounts, you might have multiple email addresses. You might have a few different social media accounts. You might have some online shopping accounts. You might have a HMRC sign-in account. And all of these different accounts, and the number can really get to too many very quickly. They all will need their own password. And what most people tend to do, because none of us can remember 100 different unique passwords, is we think of something we can remember easily and we think it's a safe password, nobody else can guess it. And we tend to reuse that same password across different places, right? So, for example, for myself, a few years ago, I used the same password for all of my social media accounts, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And so what had happened was there was a leak somewhere, and one of my accounts was leaked, and it was leaked onto the internet that, a person named Sam has an account on this social media with this email address and this password. And what then those people did, they went and took that and tried it with all the other websites that they could come up with. And luckily, I learned about it very fast and I changed my passwords beforehand, but I could see on my account security manager that somebody else had tried to sign in from Russia. So somebody else had already seen my password and my email and was trying to see if it would work on my other accounts where I use the same email and the same password. But I managed to very narrowly escape it. And this is something to always keep in mind. And so we try and stay away from using the same password everywhere. Now, I can see that Omar is asking in the chat, what if they find our golden key for the app? And this is the password that keeps all of the other passwords. We'll get to this in a second. I think, Omar, you're referring to like a master password for password managers. Is that what you're referring to? If not, let me know in the chat. But before we talk about protecting our passwords or the one master passwords, we're going to talk about our accounts. The way that the internet is set up, before we have passwords, we have an identifier. We have kind of like a public name that we can sign up to different places with. And for most of us, this is our email address. So if you're making a Facebook account, you're going to need an email address as your username, right? And then you choose a password for it. And because of this, our emails is actually our most sensitive source of information. Our email is the most important account to protect. So make sure you always have a very, very strong and unique password specifically for your email that you use to sign up to other accounts with. Because if somebody gets into your email, they can get into every other account that you have, even if they don't have the password. All they need to do is just reset the password in other places that you have an account in. So make sure you do that. A very good method for manually setting passwords is to try and remember 3 words and then create a combination from that. And there is actually a very good method that this is. I will share it with you. And I also have some resources to put in the chat here for you. But this way you can set your own passwords. But this is not actually what I recommend. What we recommend is that you have a password manager. A password manager is a kind of software, it's a different type of tool or a website that you can make an account with. And the way that it works is you make an account once and you make the strongest password you can ever think of, and you memorize this for yourself. You don't write it anywhere. You don't share it with anyone. You never type it into any other place that is not the login page of that password manager. And then when you have that account, inside of the password manager, you can actually save other passwords. So it acts as like a vault where you have one key for, and then when you open it, it has all of your other keys inside of it. And some people might be worried that, what if I miss the password for this key manager or this password manager, which is a very legitimate question. It is essentially the only way that these tools could potentially be hacked, but they are not as easy as you would think, because most of these are at the very cutting edge of the most complex security systems that we have online. And these password managers, and the one that I recommend is called Bitwarden, and you can have a free account on it. It has a free account that's very, very extensive. You can use it for your personal self, and you can store as many passwords on as many devices as you want. But do not worry about losing the password onto this, because nobody else can hack it. And you can use the three word method to create your master password for Bitwarden, and then you would only need to remember this one password and save everything else inside of Bitwarden. And a password manager will actually do a lot of different things for you. Once you actually set it up and install it, you could start adding your key accounts to it one by one. And the first one to add to it is your email. So once you have Bitwarden, you go to your email account, you go to your settings and security section of the account, and you say change password. And Bitwarden, if you have it installed on your computer, should actually have a message to you saying, do you need help changing your password? Or you can make a new password automatically from inside of it, which is fairly straightforward. You say, I want to add a new account to my Bitwarden password manager, and what the account is for. So you give it the address for your email and the password that you want to choose, gets automatically created for you. This way, you don't have to worry about remembering your individual passwords. Anytime you want to find one, you just sign into your Bitwarden very quickly. And it's the safest way, because you can actually create different passwords for different accounts that are all unique to each other. So you don't use the same password more than once. Now, once you have a secure password and you've started saving all of your passwords in a password manager, which is very, very important, especially as your business grows, you will have more and more passwords to remember. And I definitely recommend a password manager for that. After you move on from that, it's time to try things a little bit more secure. And with the current technology, the best way to do that is through something called two-factor authentication or two-step verification. This is essentially like adding a second lock, but this time with a second lock, it doesn't have a separate key, but rather every time that you want to go through a door, they will send you a new key that you can use for a very short period of time. I can see Ali putting in the chat that the latest versions of iOS have the passwords app. How safe is it? So, Ali, these are fairly safe. If you are extra security conscious, I would recommend that you go with a third-party application. And the reason for it is not that the iOS passwords app is not safe, but it's a matter of how the hackers will try to target them. So every time they create a virus that if gets on a computer, it copies all the information, one of the first places these viruses are designed to look is inside of the local passwords apps, right? So they'll try and target iOS's password app as a first place of entry. And because of that, I personally don't keep anything in it in case, if ever someday in the future, the passwords app gets attacked. So far, it hasn't. So far, it's had a very good and safe outlook. But again, it's just a matter of personal preference. As long as you are using a passwords app, you're more protected than 90% of the population. So don't worry about it too much. And with these second locks, with these two-step verifications, we actually do a very small step for us in terms of inconvenience, but it adds a huge amount to our security. And the best place to make sure that you always have it or where to switch it on is always on your email, then on your banking information or any apps or tools that you use to deal with payments and money. And last but not least, your selling accounts. So if you have marketplace accounts like eBay, Amazon, you want to make sure that you have two-factor authentication on those, especially if it's for your business accounts. This way, you don't have to worry about, even if somebody has your password and knows your email address, they won't be able to get in because they are locked out of your email. So when the two-factor authentication message comes through and says, here's a code to sign in with, they will not be able to get that code. And so this creates kind of like the perfect protection triangle for us to keep ourselves safe. Does anybody have any questions about two-factor authentication? In terms of like using it and having it on for ourselves, it's not a very complex thing. Every account's security settings will have an option to enable it. You just need to go and make it possible. And you can use it usually via a text message. So you give them your phone number, and every time you want to log in, they'll send you a text with a code. Some systems might use an email. They all work in the same way. But if you're happy with it, we can move forward. Now, part 4, this is where I would like to spend a bit of time, is about protecting your business on a day-to-day basis. So we're going to talk about kind of the everyday habits that you should ideally have, and we're going to try and be quick and practical and make it as easy as possible so that we can keep up with doing that. Now, the first thing is we all know those notifications that we get that, there's an update available. Sometimes your computer, your Windows, your tablet, your phone will sending messages, hey, there's a new update. And these might not be very popular with most people, and they're not a new feature. But it's very important that you get the updates installed as quickly as possible, because these are not usually just new features or like making the designs look nicer. Very often, the updates are fixing security holes that criminals have discovered and the developers have found a fix for, and they're trying to make sure that they close that door for the criminals with as many of their users and devices as possible. And so because of that, I always recommend that people turn on their automatic updates on your phone and your computer so that you don't forget about it, that it happens in the background. You don't need to spend much time thinking about it. If you're on a MacBook, there's a single toggle switch in the system settings to keep your auto update on. If you're on Windows, it's in the task manager in the control panel, where you have the update section and you can turn on auto updates. Very easy thing to do, and it'll make sure that you don't get targeted by any new security risks that have just been discovered and hackers are actively exploiting, but rather you're always as safe as possible with the help of the people who created the tools and the softwares that you use. The second one, the next habit is around backups and making sure that you always have a copy of your data. And ask yourself if your phone or laptop was lost, damaged, or stolen, or it was locked by a scam tomorrow. Um, what would happen to you? Would you still be able to get your customers list? Would you be able to access your invoices? Would you be able to reach your product photos that you have or listings that you have? And for many of us as small business owners, the answer to this would be no. If you took somebody's computer away from them, it would be very likely that they would not be able to keep their business running. And this in itself is a huge risk that as business owners and entrepreneurs, we have a responsibility to fix. And there's a simple rule that can actually help with it, is to keep 2 copies of anything that's important. And you keep one on the cloud, so you can use a tool like Google Drive or iCloud or OneDrive or Dropbox. Most of these have free versions, so you don't need to pay for these. But you can set up a backup to be done on these automatically. And the second one is you can create an offline backup. So I have here a little thing that I actually use for my own backups. This is a 2 terabyte hard disk drive that I bought for 30 quid, so 30 pounds. And every couple of weeks, I'll empty it and then copy paste my entire hard drive off my computer. I copy paste everything into that hard drive. So if my laptop breaks tomorrow, I just have to buy a new one and then copy paste all my files back in, and I'm ready to get back to work again. So minimal disruption. Yeah. And the reason why this matters is some of these risks are from kind of like physical things happening. So like dropping a laptop, it breaking, or somebody stealing it. But there are digital ones as well, where some hackers might be able to lock your computer from a distance. It's a thing called ransomware. And they usually put a password on your computer, and you won't be able to access your computer anymore unless you pay them. So if something like that happens to me, all I have to do is unplug my computer, turn it off, and then just tell them I'm not going to pay. I'd just rather spend the money on upgrading to a new laptop for myself. Yes, Matt, I can see you have your hands up.
Yes, thank you very much for the useful tips. Just I have a question about this point. I mean, why you need to have an offline copy of everything? Why from the beginning, for example, when you know this is something important to me, so why from the beginning, why not using iCloud or Google Drive, Dropbox? So why to have 2 copies? Like, yeah.
Yeah, for in my case, it's a matter of also wanting to retain privacy, right? So I don't keep my main backup on the cloud because I don't own those servers. They're owned by a third-party company in a third-party country with their own privacy laws, right? Um, and this is something that comes into play when you're dealing with customer data specifically. Uh, where you keep your backup also matters. ICO cares about it, GDPR cares about it. And as a business, you have to be able to show where you keep your backups. And if you keep them in a online cloud service, you have to have an agreement with those companies to essentially move your copy of the files onto a server within a legal jurisdiction. Does that make sense? It
Yes,
gets
this
very
point.
complex very fast. But I prefer offline copies because it's just always there when I need it. Whereas with cloud, it can get very, very cluttered very fast. Like I have probably a few hundred different MacBook backups on my iCloud drive, and I don't know what's what. I'm not able to manage it easily. So it's a matter of personal preference as well. So the one that I have here is a Toshiba 2 terabyte. Yeah. I bought it at a Argos sale, so I don't think if they are as cheap as £30 anymore. They're up to £75 on eBay, £99 on Currys. But 2 terabyte is a massive amount. Like most people won't need 2 terabytes. So you can always get a smaller one. The next one is to lock your devices behind passwords and pins and different kinds of protections. If you have any sort of kind of like biological passwords like Face ID or fingerprint, use those. Extra safe, very good. and it actually keeps your data protected behind a wall that nobody will be able to get through unless if they have your fingerprint. The second one is be careful of using public Wi-Fis because when you connect to Wi-Fi, usually there's a question that it asks you. Do you want to be able to find other devices? And most people unknowingly answer yes to it. When you do, all the other devices are also able to see your laptop. So if somebody who knows what they're doing is connected to that, they'll be able to see who you are, what your device is, and connect to your computer. And if you don't have a password set up on your computer or your computer is unlocked and you're doing things on it, they'll be able to access your information. So for that reason, I never connect to public Wi-Fi's. I always have my phone with me. And anytime I need to connect to the internet, I create a Wi-Fi hotspot and I connect through that. Never a public Wi-Fi as much as I can help it. And another one that can be very good is creating two separate workstations inside of a computer. You can have two separate Windows accounts, for example, where you sign in and out of one of each. And you could keep one for your personal life and you could keep one for your business. This way, if any of those accounts get hacked, only one side of your life will be affected. So it'll either be like your personal images that somebody manages to get access to, or it'll just be like your customer data. And it's not to scare you, but it's just to give you ideas of how to manage your risk. Because that kind of thing is very rare to happen. But if it does happen, it's better to have thought about it and set up steps to protect and make sure that the risk is as small as possible. And if you work with other people, this could be your mentors, this could be staff members in your company, this could be volunteers for your charity. Do these steps to make sure that you're as protected as possible and make sure that everybody has their own login. Don't share the same account. Um, if there's ever a problem, this way you can see who has done what, and you're able to actually limit the damage or the access. And the second one is to don't ever share passwords through messages. I've seen people share messages through Slack or WhatsApp. Never do that. If you have Bitwarden, you can actually share it with other people through a share function. It's much more secure, it's much more safer. And if it's somebody who's in the same business as you should always share it through the password manager that you both have access to. And if anybody ever leaves the team or stops working with you, make sure to remove their access straight away. This way, if their accounts get leaked or somebody else gets access to it, no issues can come from it. Now, part 5 is kind of like more specific to us as refugees, people who, in some cases we have to protect our identity extra carefully, as well as our customers, and how to what to know to be able to protect ourselves if something ever goes wrong. Now, the running a business often comes with putting your name and details out into the world. If you have a limited company, your name and address will be public information on a government website. But you do actually have a lot more control than you might think at first. You're actually able to limit the information that gets put out. If you've registered a limited company, for example, you can either use a service address, so you can pay a company to use their address. These are known as virtual addresses. Or alternatively, you can talk to the company's house to hide your address from the public record. And this can be used in extraordinary circumstances. For example, if you're a refugee and you're hiding from your government, or you don't want some bad people to know where you could potentially be living, these are options that are available to us to protect our privacy and our safety. And you can also check to see who can actually see your social profiles. And you can do different kind of like access levels where you have personal profiles that are not directly related to you, whereas you have some other profiles for your business that are more polished and public. So all of those are within your control. You can use those kind of like features and functions to protect your privacy. And if you want to stay extra safe and secure, try and share less than it feels natural. So photos and locations that can be pieced together. If you are in a situation where you don't want anybody to know where you're living or where you are, especially when you post photos with the background of a place around you, in real time, people will be able to pin exactly where on the map you are. There are many different techniques to do so. And for that reason, you can also always post retrospectively. So one of the things that I do, I never share pictures of a holiday I'm on the same week that I'm on the holiday. I always post photos that are weeks, if not months old, to make sure that, whoever sees those photos, even if they do figure out where I was, if they go there, I'm not going to be there anymore. So this way you can actually protect your physical safety and your location. So these are just some general tips to make sure that you're aware of. And if your safety is ever genuinely a concern, know that you're not alone in TERN and our specialist services. We're here, and we can help you. If you have those kind of concerns, let a staff member know at TERN, and we'll be happy to do our best to help you. Now, if your business keeps customer details or customer information, these are things like names, phone numbers, emails, payment details. You have a responsibility to look after them. And this is nothing like too scary or major. And most of the GDPR laws and the legal compliance side of things can be summarized into these four pieces of advice that I'm going to share. The first one is to collect only what you actually need. So this is the best way to make sure that you're not breaking any rules, is don't collect any information that you don't need. Keep it small, keep it simple, and your customers will appreciate it too. The second one is keeping it secure. Um, we've already talked about this. Make sure that your business uses strong, unique passwords, have two-step verifications, and backups in place. You do these three things, and your accounts will be kept secure and safe for a long time to come. The third one is never to share or sell it, especially if you haven't told your customers you plan on doing so. This needs to be part of your data practices as a business owner, whether you are a sole trader or a limited company, it still applies. And the last one is to know the rules. In the UK, most of the businesses that handle customer data and customer information should actually register with an organization called ICO. And ICO oversees all of the data protection stuff and the GDPR rules. They do actually have a lot of educational content on their platform that helps organizations understand their responsibilities better. I'm putting the link to it in the chat. Please have a read of it if you collect any confirmation, customer information, to make sure that you stay safe. And in some cases, you might need to register with them directly if you are a data controller or processor. Yeah, I know in my personal business, I had to register my business with ICO, and I pay, I think, something about like 50 something pounds a year to ICO as part of that registration. So make sure that this is something that you have looked at it. I see Omar has shared an example of a message that they get once a week. So Omar, this seems like a textbook scam or something that they're trying to push you. I would just ignore messages like this. Never open the link or click on it. Just ignore it. Block the number. Yeah. They try and get you to click on things by making you feel like you could be owed up to £2,000. They're like, I would love to have £2,000. But sadly, almost never these are true. So don't fall for it. All right. If ever you find yourself in a situation where something goes wrong, the most important thing is don't panic. It's happened to other businesses and other people before, and it's never the end of the world. There are steps you can take aside from the preparationary things that we've discussed in today's session. If anything goes wrong, these are the four things you need to do. First of all, you change the password from a device that you trust, that you believe is not associated with the incident, whether it's been hacked or anything. Make sure you use a device that you trust is safe, and you change your passwords, starting with the most important one being your email address. Next, make sure all the two-step verifications are on. If you hadn't already at this point, two-step verifications can actually stop people even if they have your passwords. So make sure to turn it on. The third one is if it is something that has touched any of your money related accounts, right? So bank, marketplace accounts, contact them as soon as possible. Make sure they're aware there's a record of you reporting it, and that you have tried all in your control to make sure that the damage stays minimal. And last but not least, report it to the police. So the UK has an organization called Action Fraud. Um, their responsibility is dealing with situations that have to do with digital cybercrime or scams and money fraud. They have a phone number, but they also have a website. You can get in touch with them directly. I'll put the link to that into the chat as well. And sometimes if something happens, the persons who done it, they will try and extract money from you. They might tell you, don't tell anyone, don't tell the police. Um, Never pay a ransom or a fee to fix it, because that most often just goes to create a situation where these people will be like, well, we made some money, we might as well keep doing this. And if you can help it, don't do it. And try and ask for help instead of doing that. Now, we have a little plan for you. These are 5 steps you can start doing from this week. And I will share this with you in a follow-up along with a sheet of resources. So once you have a time, like an hour to focus on this, spend the time. It's worth the investment. You're going to set up your password manager. You're going to change your email passwords, make sure they're as strong as possible. And you're going to turn on this two-step verification on all of your important accounts, starting with your email. Switch on automatic updates, and start thinking about the free habits that don't cost you anything. Stop, think, check, so that anytime anything comes through, you don't just fall into their traps. And you don't have to do all of these 5 things like tonight or all in one go. There can be a process, especially the password changing one and using a password manager takes some time, but it's definitely one worth investing. And I'm saying that not just as a business owner who's like got all of his passwords in a password manager, but also as a person who hates memorizing stuff. And I don't have to think about what my password for each account is anymore. And it's been a lifesaver in that regard. Yes, Majd.
Thanks again, Sam. Question, since you mentioned about the password manager app, do you recommend Google one or the one
I
that you
haven't
shared
actually
with us?
used the Google one. I haven't used the Google one, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what it's like or how it is. Yeah. I've used LastPassword, Bitwarden, and Keeper and 1Password personally. And between all of those, like I'm currently using something called Keeper, but also Bitwarden is a good one because it's free across multiple devices. So you can have it connected on your phone as well as your computer, and you can look at the passwords on both of them and they sync with each other. From an operational standpoint, it makes life a lot easier. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Can put them in the chat or unmute yourself.
I have another question, and I'm not sure if you addressed that or not. I never faced that, but always like when I purchase something online from an e-commerce, I have the idea that how can I make sure this is a real website, not a scam one? Especially you fill in your bank account details. So is there like someone else in the, let's say, government taking the responsibility of checking what websites or e-commerce
No,
goes? Okay,
Yeah.
so
So private companies do their best. So for example, if you search on Google, Google always tries their best that to make sure that the links you see at the top are always the correct website. Yeah. But it's not 100% guaranteed. And the responsibility is always with you as the user. There are some tools and software. For example, I use something called Malwarebytes Browser Guard. And what this does, I'll put the link in the chat so you can have a look at it. Essentially, it's a Chrome extension that you download on your browser, and it always runs a check in the background of any website that you open to make sure that the address is legitimate. Yeah. So, for example, if you go to Google and instead of like O's, it has zeros in it because it's not the real Google, it's a fake website. It'll flag it and be like, "Hey, this is not the real Google, Sam. Get out of here." So it's been very good. It saved me a couple of times from going to websites that were not legitimate. I hope that answers your question. And does anybody else have any other questions?
I have one more if nobody else has a question.
Yeah.
I think I know your answer, like you don't recommend that, but I know like a lot of maybe friends, like maybe they would use some application in order to stream some of the stuff online, for example. So the application themselves, they don't get them from Google Store or Apple Store. They download them directly from websites.
Mm. Yeah.
I know that's not recommended, but any comment from you? I mean, how can we assess that's really dangerous or not? And once we install such application on our devices, does that mean they are able to access all the information in our devices or not
Yeah,
really?
like most of these usually tend to be malware, and malware is a type of software that's designed to steal information. It's not designed to stop you from using your device, and most of the time you won't even know it's there. But it can, for example, it can create a copy of everything you type every day and then send a copy via email to the person who created it. And there's a lot of that out there on the web, which is why I really don't recommend downloading anything from any place that you don't trust. Yeah. And there are extra kind of like precautionary steps you can take, and that's using antivirus software as well as anti-malware. So I have two separate ones that I use. I actually have yeah, so I have the uh, Defender antivirus for Mac, and I also have the Malwarebytes software. So I use these two together at the same time because one of them is designed to catch any viruses and the other one is designed to catch any spyware. Um, and together they provide as much of a trustworthy security as you can potentially expect. Does it still mean I'm 100% protected or safe? I don't know, but this is as close as we can get to having that confirmation and confidence. I see in the chat you've asked, what about PayPal to use when ordering? That's safe. PayPal is actually very good because this way you're not providing your bank information, so you're not giving them your card number. So tools like PayPal are very good to help with that. But you still shouldn't connect it to any websites that you don't trust. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Because yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions? If not, then I think we can wrap up the session.
The last one, sorry, the last question is it okay? Sometimes because if I'm getting a little bit growing up in my website to order, can I use PayPal that they can pay me through PayPal?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Is it when other people want to pay you, they pay you via PayPal?
Yeah, one customer spoke to me last week that yes, is it okay if they can pay me through PayPal?
Right. If it's like if they ask you to give them your email that your PayPal account is on, then that's a little bit like suspicious because PayPal accounts are connected to your email address. And then
Yes.
that way they'll be able to know your personal name and your email address.
Okay.
So I would advise against it. But if you have a PayPal for business and you connect it as an option to, say, eBay or your website, and people can pay via PayPal there, that's not the same thing as sending money to your person directly using PayPal.
Okay, thank you very much.
One of those is safe, the other one can potentially expose you a little bit.
All right, okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Of course. Alexandra, I see you've asked for the name of the password managers. I'll send you in a second. So the main one is Bitwarden, but I also used 1Password and Keeper. I'll find the links for you as well. Now, some of these softwares are usually like paid or can be expensive. So if you plan on buying anything over the next couple of months in August and November, it's something called the Cyber Monday. A lot of these tools like password managers, they will have very big discounts for their annual subscriptions. So I usually do my shopping around that time and I buy all of the software that I need for the next year for a fraction of the price. So this way you can also save a lot of money if there are anything that you want to purchase, like antivirus or VPN or password managers. Otherwise, Bitwarden is free. The free version is perfectly good to start with and will take care of most of your needs. Yeah. But thank you so much for being here today. I would like to ask for you to please take out your phones and give us some feedback about what you thought today's session was like. I look forward to hearing your thoughts.